Welcome to the Wisdom That Breathes channel. Across all our platforms, we try to share wisdom which is relevant and accessible to everyone. But on this particular platform, we go deeper into some of the ancient principles found within the scriptures. If you find some of the terminology difficult or inaccessible, then go over to our Keshava Swami YouTube channel where you'll be able to find other content which is perhaps more relatable. Thank you and enjoy the wisdom that breathes. Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuga Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Repam Sarvajatam Sadhana Raghunathatam Sajivam Sadhaitam Sadhuram Hrijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sadhana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavandu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopikakanda Radhakanta Namostute Saptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwavandu Sudevi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhyaeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you so much. Thank you, Krishna Priya Prabhu. We're bringing him over to the Saffron Army. Hare Krishna everyone, so thank you so much for coming this morning. Apologies I wasn't here for the morning program, late night Zoom call. Had to catch up on a little bit of sleep. Happy to be here this morning. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We're reading Canto number 1, chapter number 17, entitled The Punishment and Reward of Kali, and today we're reading from text number 6. So if you can repeat after me. Yastvam Krishna Gate Duram Sahagandi Vadhanvana Socho Sachyan Rahasi Praharan Vadamarhasi Yastvam Krishna Gate Duram Sahagandi Vadhanvana Socha Sasyochan Rahasi Praharan Vadamarhasi Yastvam Krishna Gate Duram Sahagandi Vadhanvana Socha Sasyochan Rahasi Praharan Vadamarhasi. Yastvam Krishna Gate Duram Sahagandi Vadhanvana Praharan Vadamarhasi. Yastvam Krishna Gate Duram Saha Gandiva Dhanvana Sochasya Shojan Rahasi Praharan Vadam Arhasi Yastvam Krishna Gate Duram Saha Gandiva Dhanvana Socho Sochyan Rahasi Praharan Vadam Arhasi Yastvam Krishna Gate Duram Sahagandiva Dhanvana Sochasya Sochyanahasi Praharan Vadam Arhasi Yastvam Krishna Gate Duram Sahagandiva Dhanvana Sochasya Sochyanahasi Praharan Vadam Arhasi. Yaha on account of Tvam, you rogue, Krishna, Lord Krishna, Gate, having gone away, Duram, out of sight, Saha, along with, Gandiva, the bow named Gandiva, Dhanvana, the carrier Arjun, Sochya, culprit, Asi, you are considered, Asochyan, innocent, Rahasi, in a secluded place, Praharan, beating, Vadham, to be killed, Arhasi, deserve. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. So this is Maharaj Parikshit is going around the kingdom making sure everything is okay. Everything is not okay because he has spotted the personality of Kali who's beating the bull Dharma and the cow. So this is the translation. You rogue, do you dare to beat an innocent cow because Lord Krishna and Arjun, the carrier of the Gandiva bow, are out of sight? Since you are beating the innocent in a secluded place, you are considered a culprit and therefore deserve to be killed. Purport. In a civilization where God is conspicuously banished, there is no devotee warrior like Arjun. The associates of the age of Kali take advantage of this lawless kingdom and arrange to kill innocent animals like the cow in secluded slaughterhouses. Such murderers of animals stand to be condemned to death by the order of a pious king like Maharaj Parikshit. For as pious king, the culprit who kills an animal in a secluded place is punishable by death penalty, exactly like a murderer who kills an innocent child in a secluded place. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So here Parikshit is doing his duty as a Kshatriya. Kshatriya is a very interesting word. Kshatriya, it literally means one who is able to release others from fear. Kshatriya. So this is what a king is meant to do. A king is meant to provide protection. A king is meant to protect and free anyone from any sense of insecurity, uncertainty, and threat. And therefore, Parikshit is doing his duty, but he's come across Kali. Kali is also dressed as a king. Kali is also dressed as a twice-born Kshatriya. In the previous verse, Parikshit says to Kali, you are Dvija, you're twice born. How are you acting like this? Dvija is the name for a Brahmana. Sanskrit is an interesting language. Dvija, twice born, can mean three things. A Brahmana, Dvija can also mean teeth,
And Dvija can also mean a chicken. A Brahmana is Dvija, twice born. Yes, because a Brahmana takes a seminal birth, but then takes a birth by initiation. Therefore twice born. Teeth are also twice born, because they come out, then they fall out, and then they come out again. And the chicken is also known as twice born. Why? Because first the egg comes out of the mother, and then the chicken comes out of the egg. So, Sanskrit, very nice language. Dvija. So in this case, he's saying you're a Dvija. You're supposed to be a Kshatriya, but you're acting more like a chicken. In colloquial English, we say a chicken is one who doesn't, kind of hides in the background, doing things in a secluded way. So he says to Kali, you're not acting like a Dvija. You're supposed to protect, but you are not protecting. This is the very characteristic of Kali. Those who are agents of Kali and the age of Kali Yuga, that where there is supposed to be protection, there ends up being exploitation. Yudhishthira was renowned because Yudhishthira could answer any question. Very, very learned. So therefore in the dialogue with Yamaraj, Yudhishthira gives many incredible answers, isn't it? Yamaraj asks him, what's the most amazing thing in the world? And the answer is, people are dying every day, but still that person thinks, I will live forever. What a brilliant answer. Yamaraj asked him, what is more numerous than the blades of grass on earth? And what was Yudhishthira's answer? Desires. More desires than you can imagine. Dushpurena nalena cha, Krishna says. Desires. Parimeyam cha pralayantam upashrita kam upabhoga parama etavaditi nishchita. Materially engrossed people have so many desires, never satisfied. They once, there's a YouTube video, you can watch it. They interviewed the richest person on earth. So he had been crowned the richest person. So then they put a mic to his, and they said, what are you feeling more? What are you feeling in this situation? And he just looked right at the camera and he said, more. They asked Yudhishthira, Yamaraj asked him, what is faster than the wind? What's faster than the wind? The mind. But even if the mind goes at the speed of the wind, Muni Pungavanam, still it can't reach Krishna. But the mind is so fast. But even that fast mind cannot reach Krishna. But yes, the mind, very fast. Yudhishthira was asked by Yamaraj, what's heavier than the mountain? Anyone know that one? What's heavier than the mountain? A mother's love. Mother's love. It leaves such an impression. It leaves such an impression on the heart that one can never forget that. He said, what is higher than the mountain? Yudhishthira Maharaj said, the respect that one offers to their father. Anyone who has taught you, any teacher. So like this, Yudhishthira was known to give the best answers. So once there's a story of how someone had observed things in the world and wanted to understand what is the meaning of these things. You see, because when you see things in the world, an astute person realizes that everything is teaching you something. Everything is a symptom of something that's about to happen. So he went to see Yudhishthira Maharaj because he had seen 4 very, very strange things in the world, and he wanted to know what's the meaning of them. So he came to the palace and he came to see Yudhishthira Maharaj, and lo and behold, outside of Yudhishthira Maharaj's room was a security, and the security was Bhima. And so this person said, I've come to see Yudhishthira Maharaj. Bhima said, who are you? He said, I've come to see him because I have very difficult questions that need to be answered, and only he can answer them. Bhima said, you don't, waste his time. Just ask me. I'll be able to tell you the answer. So he said, I don't think, Bhima, you're going to be able to answer my questions. Bhima said, try me. So he said, I've been walking around in this Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is about to commence in its full force. And I've seen certain things that make no sense to me. He said, the first thing is that I saw an agricultural field and it was surrounded by a fence. But the fence was coming closer and closer and closer. He said, I don't understand the meaning of this. Bhima said, me neither. Bhima said, try the second one. He said, I saw a person who had a pot of water. And what that person did is emptied the pot of water into 8 jugs. And then what they did is, after emptying the water into 8 jugs, they poured the jugs back into that full pot of water, and the water was only half. It's like, do-do-do-do-do-do. Bhima was like, I have no idea. He said, the third thing I saw is I saw someone pass an elephant through an eye of a needle. But then the tail got stuck. Bhima said, this is going from like hard to impossible. Like, I have no idea. And then he said, the fourth thing I saw is I saw this big boulder and all these strong people were trying to move it. Nobody could move it. And then a sadhu came and with the thread of his chadar, he moved the rock. Bhima said, be my guest, go inside. You ask him, I have no idea what all of this means. So he went in, had a chat with Yudhishthira. And then he came out. He was very happy, very satisfied. Bhima said, you look very happy. He said, I got all my answers. See you later. Bhima said, hey, hang on. Tell me the answers. I want to know what all of this means. He said, it's all very profound because everything you see in the world has a meaning. It's not just random. He said there was a field that was protected by a fence, but the fence was coming in. This signifies what happens in Kali Yuga, because those who are supposed to protect, those who are supposed to keep out the negative influence are the ones who are impinging, who are invading, who are actually being intrusive to people. And therefore he said, this is what will happen in Kali Yuga. Those who are supposed to protect you, they will be the ones who take from you and exploit from you and actually attack you. And therefore you see that in the world, that the government is supposed to protect, but oftentimes the government is attacking. There's only 2 things sure in the world, death and taxes. Pillaging. So those who are supposed to protect, the hospital is meant to protect you. But nowadays the hospital is a business. You have no idea what's going to happen. The judicial system is meant to protect you, but nowadays it's a business, so you have no idea. Whoever has the most money, they win. The educational system is meant to protect you, but it's all a business now, so they're just trying to take. In this way, everything. The media is meant to protect you by making you more informed. But no, they're actually exploiting because it's all misinformation a lot of the time. He poured the pot of water into 8 jugs, the full pot of water, and when he poured it back, it was only half. Yudhishthira said the meaning of this is that you'll give your love. You'll give your love to others in Kali Yuga. You'll give the best of yourself. But people will not reciprocate. Don't be surprised. They didn't reciprocate. Welcome to Kali Yuga. Because there's very little gratitude in Kali Yuga. The Sanskrit word for gratitude is kritagya, literally to know what has been done for you. But in Kali Yuga, people have very less gratitude. So you can give the best of yourself to people and they may not reciprocate. And he said specifically this refers to parental love. The parents may give everything to the children and the children may not always reciprocate. This is the danger. The elephant went through the eye of the needle, but then the tail got stuck. This is Kali Yuga. The big thieves go scot-free. The big thieves are just, nobody catches them. But the small thief, the one who does something, they get caught. Once I was in Lincoln and I was distributing books. It's like Christmas time, all kinds of people on the street doing nefarious things, including the book distributors. I was distributing books and it was so funny. This like 13-year-old kid was like riding a bike in the town. It's a pedestrianized street, so you're not supposed to ride a bike. Anyway, this 13-year-old kind of, just a teenage kid was riding a bike. And I just saw like 3 policemen came up to him with like machine guns. Like, can you get off your bike? I was like, this is a little overkill, like for like a teenage kid on a bike. I mean, there's bigger people out here doing like things. It was like, trying to kill a mosquito with a sledgehammer or something. It's just like over the top, And that's what happens in Kali Yuga. The big people who do the big crimes, no one catches them. Goebbels, he was Hitler's PR man, and he made an interesting statement. He said, if you're going to tell a lie, if you really want to tell a lie, tell a big lie. Tell a massive lie. Because if you tell a big lie, a massive lie, then people will look at you and think, that's so big, he can't be lying about that. It must be true. So the big one is so funny. In Kali Yuga, this is what happens. And then there was a big boulder, nobody could move it, but then the sadhu, this thread just effortlessly moved it. And he said, this is the best teaching of Kali Yuga, that despite all the faults, Kale dosha nidhe rajan asti hi eko mahan guna kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajeta. Kali Yuga is full of faults, impossible to remove all of the negative influence of Kali Yuga. Is like a boulder. You can't move it. You can't change it. But the amazing thing is, Asti Hyeko Mahan Guna, there's one great quality that by this holy name, which is so inconspicuous, which is so unassuming, which seems to be so, we don't understand the power of what we're holding. By that holy name, Mukta Sangha Param Brajait, one can be freed from all of this influence, one can be released. He said, this is the other symptom of Kali Yuga. So Bhima was happy. He said, wow, that's amazing. Everything has a meaning. But here specifically the first one, because Kali is meant to protect, but what is Kali doing? Kali is actually attacking. And this is what happens. So one of the interesting things in this verse is that if you see, Prabhupada uses one word 3 times in the purple. Anyone remember that word? Rahasyam, rahasi. That Kali is not just attacking the innocent, but Kali is doing it in a secluded place, in a secluded way, undercover. This is even worse. One thing is dishonesty. But even on top of dishonesty, if there is lack of integrity, then this is even worse. They say honesty means you say what you do. But integrity means you do what you say. And in Kali Yuga, most people don't have any honesty. And if on top of lack of honesty, they have a lack of integrity, then it's double worse. So what Parikshit is saying to Kali is that not only are you killing the innocent, but what you're doing is you're doing it in a secluded place. You're doing it in a secluded way. You're doing it in a way that nobody will even realize you're doing it. Is one thing is bad enough to kill the innocent, But when you do it in such a way that nobody else will know that you're doing it, that's 10 times worse. And this is basically what happens in Kali Yuga, and therefore Kali Yuga is full of conspiracy theories. Kali Yuga means the Yuga of conspiracy theories. Because a conspiracy, the definition of a conspiracy theory is when a powerful person undertakes a plan to create harm and does it in such a way that nobody will realize they're doing it. That's basically the definition of a conspiracy theory. And therefore in the world today there are so many conspiracy theories, isn't it? Did aliens land in Area 51 at Roswell? 9/11. Yes. Let's have a show of hands. Who believes 9/11 was a conspiracy by the US government to actually cover up their foreign policy in the Middle East? Okay, here we go. The conspiracy theorists showing their colors. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, 9/11. I think about 9/11 a lot because I'm on planes quite a lot nowadays, and it's just like, kind of like, every time I come and land, like the plane is coming down, somehow 9/11, you can see where my consciousness is. It's like, it's outrageous, 9/11. 2 airplanes go into the north and south tower of the World Trade Center. 3,000 people killed in one go. And out of those 3,000, 200 of them jumped. That's amazing. 200 of them just jumped. It's ridiculous. They say the economic impact of 9/11 is something ridiculous. I think it's $30 billion or something. But for me, whether 9/11 was a conspiracy or not, the fact that it can even be posed as a potential conspiracy theory shows how twisted the world is. That even potentially you could pose an idea like that and it sounds like it could be true, just shows how crazy the world we're living in is. Because things are happening and we have no idea. We have not, because it's all done in a secluded way. And here in the purport, Prabhupada says, perhaps the biggest conspiracy theory in the world is that people try to take God out of the picture. Prabhupada says, in a civilization where God is conspicuously banished, there is no devotee warrior like Arjuna. The associates of the age of Kali take advantage and then do all kinds of nefarious activities. So if you look at the world today, people are basically trying to take God out of the picture. And they try to take the God out of the picture in a way that you can't even detect what they're doing. Can anyone think of a way in which God is taken out of the picture in the world we're living in today, and we may not even be aware that that's happening? Yes? Impersonalize everything, yeah, depersonalize. Everything is matter. That everything comes from, we've proved through science that everything comes from just chemical interactions. I remember once I studied down the road at UCL, so I used to come here. And I remember once coming here, and I must have had some kind of philosophical conversation with the devotee, and then I went back to UCL and I was going past the refectory, and the Stop the War Coalition were there. You know, these like activists, they're really active at university, and they're like, stop the war, stop the war. So I was walking, and then one person jumped out at me and he said, stop the war, come and demonstrate. Thousands of people are dying. So of course I just come back from Soho, so I was in a philosophical state of mind. So I looked back at this person and I said, what happens when people die? So he was like, what are you talking about? I said, well, you're saying thousands of people are dying. What happens when people die? So he was like baffled, like he didn't know how to answer. Then he said, well, we're just chemicals. We just go back. We go back into the earth. So I said, you're saying everything's matter? He said, yeah, everything's matter. So I said, if everything's matter, then nothing matters. I could throw you into the ocean, I could throw a Coke can into the ocean, and it would all be the same thing, because if everything's matter, we all came randomly, we're all here randomly, and when we die, we all go into oblivion anyway. Then if everything's matter, nothing matters. Relax. Relax. Why are you getting so worked up about it? He said, no, we're more than matter with it. I said, good. What more are we than matter? Have you thought about that? But this is what the world does. When it reduces everything to matter, the first step in exploiting something is to depersonalize it. Why do people exploit the earth? Because we've depersonalized the earth. In Vedic culture, we personalize the earth. Earth is Bhumi. It's our mother. But the moment you say, no, it's not our mother, it's just matter. That's the first step to exploiting something. You depersonalize it. When you depersonalize people, then know for sure that you will definitely, you'll kill them. Therefore, in the 16th chapter of the Gita, Krishna says two incredible verses. He says, Asatyam apratistamte jakatahuranishwaram aparaspara sambhutam kim anyat kamahaitukam. He says the demoniac, asatyam apratistamte, they say the world is unreal and has no foundation. There's no God in control. Everything just comes from sex desire. And then what's the very next verse Krishna says? Etam drishtim avashtabhya nashtatman valpa buddhaya prabhavantyugra karmana kshayaya jagato hita. Etam drishtim, furnished with that kind of vision. Nastatman valpa buddhaya, they're lost to themselves. They have no idea who they are, who other people are. And when they have no idea, when they take God out of the picture, then what do? Prabhavantyugra karmana, they do ugra karma. They just exploit. They just destroy the world. Kshayaya jagato hita, and they basically destroy everything. So yeah, we impersonalize everything. So yeah, this is one way in which we take God out of the picture, by saying everything's matter. Other ways, can you think, in the world, how they take God out of the picture without us even knowing? Abortion, yeah, sometimes through morality, through a kind of a campaign of morality. They take all spirituality out of the equation under the pretext that this is moral, this is humane, we have rights. But they don't understand there's a deeper spiritual thing behind this. Yeah. If you think carefully, there are many, many ways in which God is being taken out of the picture. And this is what basically happens in Kali Yuga. So Parikshit, he is a real Kshatriya. He's really freeing the subjects from fear, because he's driving out all of this influence. But of course, as we know, this influence is always subject to coming back. And therefore, we have to be very, very careful. Honesty and integrity, these are the two qualities that the future, the bright future, is resting upon. So many people may be weak. So many of us may not be, may be falling short of what we feel we can and should be. But the moment you lose your honesty and your integrity, then everything is lost. Therefore it said in Kali Yuga, there's only one leg of dharma which is still standing, and that is truthfulness. We may not have purity, we may not have austerity, cleanliness, we may not be merciful, but in all of that, if we can still somehow be honest, if we can still somehow have integrity, then still, even despite all of what is being lost in Kali Yuga, there can still be a way back. So therefore, there's no purity without honesty. There's no purity without integrity. And therefore, Parikshit is saying to Kali, what's worse than the fact that you're doing these nefarious activities, what makes it worse is you're doing it in a secluded place without anyone knowing, and this makes it even worse. And so this is something that we can draw from this purport. Srila Prabhupada ki. Yeah. All right, a few minutes left. If anyone has any questions or comments or...
Thank you for the lecture. So just one question regarding this chapter. Maharaj, one question regarding the chapter in itself when we talk about Kali Yuga. In Bhagavatam we see that there's a personification of these yugas, especially Kali Yuga. But is there a similar personification of other four yugas, or why there's so much importance of Kali being personified? I would like to get your thoughts, and pardon my ignorance, I don't know if Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, or Satyuga are personified like these in our scriptures in general.
Yeah. I've personally not read, I don't know if anyone has read, I've personally not read of Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga or Dwapara Yuga being personified. That doesn't mean that there isn't a personification. We hear obviously about Kali Yuga being personified because really Bhagavatam is dealing with the onset of Kali Yuga. Krishna swadham upagate dharma gnana bibisaha kalau nasta drisham esha Purarnarko dhunodhita. And therefore we're specifically hearing and understanding how Kali Yuga is taking root, because Bhagavatam is the Purana which deals with how to find light in Kali Yuga. And so therefore the emphasis is on understanding Kali and how Kali's influence spreads. So I've not heard of the other yugas being personified. Has anyone heard of that? I've not read of any of that, but that's not to say it doesn't exist. As we were mentioning in Vedic theology, everything is personified. So the yugas are personified, holy places are personified, rivers are personified. Everything is personified because behind everything there is sentience, there is control, there is volition, and so yes, like that. Yes. Okay, so some questions.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for your presentation this morning. You honed in on this point of Rahasya, which is about the seclusion. One question I had was, isn't there an element of protection from seclusion, from influence? And so, to give an example, many years ago, one devotee shared that they used to chant whilst they were driving.
They used to chant while driving?
They were driving.
Okay.
So obviously it's not ideal. At that point, when I heard that, I thought, okay, maybe it's okay to do it. So there's that element of influence. But if that aspect of what they were doing was still secluded, it may have prevented that influence in me. So is there an element that actually the seclusion provides some element of protection?
So you're saying, like, if something nefarious is being done and it's done in seclusion, at least it doesn't influence the rest. In a sense, of course, but the problem here is that the person or the personality who's committing that is the one spreading that. So although they do it in seclusion and someone seeing that act won't necessarily then see it, internalize it and repeat it themselves, that personality is actually going and spreading that influence without anyone else knowing. So that's the problem. Like, although in one sense others won't necessarily pick up on it, the fact is that that person will think they can get away with it and they will think that it's okay. And because they think that they can get away with it and that it's okay because nobody kind of holds them account for that, then they become the ones that spread that influence. And so that's why the seclusion is dangerous, because it gives more power to the perpetrators who aren't held accountable for the acts that they perform. But yeah, so like, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to also say about seclusion and solitude that seclusion has like a double aspect for a devotee. There's 3 places I can count in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, I think, the 13th and the 18th chapter, where Krishna talks about the importance of solitude, living away from the general mass of people. And so even seclusion and solitude and being away is also good for a devotee, but it has a double-edged sword, because in seclusion, when nobody is looking, when nobody is watching, then we begin to do things that, you know, we wouldn't do when we're surrounded. And therefore, even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, although the Vaishnavacharyas are recommending, yes, we should do bhajan, we should take time in seclusion, in solitude, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is also pointing out the dangers of nirjan bhajan, or going away to a secluded place, because your mind will victimize you. And so, yeah, seclusion has this kind of double, a protective aspect and an empowering aspect, and also an aspect which can really degrade and corrupt someone. It's very interesting, seclusion as a concept. Yeah. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thanks so much for the class. Just a quick question based on the last point that truthfulness is the pillar on which Kali Yuga stands. So the way I understood it is that just means we should be always truthful all the time. But I remember there was one class by one devotee where he was kind of mentioning that there's certain exceptions to that. For example, I think in business negotiations, or if it's to protect other people. So I'm just wondering, truthfulness, does that mean like telling the truth all the time, or is there like certain instances where we kind of should we consider that? Or?
Yeah. Mahabharata is an interesting literature because it basically shows that dharma is very, very difficult to understand and very, very difficult to apply. At what time do you be truthful? At what time do you be moral? At what time are there principles which are higher than that, which cause you to then have to give up the lower principle? This is the dharma shamuda that many, many characters in the Mahabharata have, because they don't know at what point a principle should be given up in pursuance of a higher principle. And therefore the wisest people in the universe know that definitely there are dharmic principles, but sometimes those dharmic principles can be given up in pursuance of a higher dharma. Yudhishthira said that at the end of his life, he had to see hell for some moments. Yudhishthira, the personification of righteousness. So some commentators say that Yudhishthira had to see hell because he lied. He lied on the battlefield. Because, you know, when Drona had to be killed, then he had to say the lie, Ashvatham is dead. And he was hesitating to, but he said the lie in the end. So some commentators say Yudhishthira had to see hell because he lied. But the Vaishnav commentators, they say Yudhishthira didn't have to see hell because he lied. You know why Yudhishthira had to see hell? Because he hesitated for a moment to follow Krishna's instruction. In other words, following Krishna's instruction is the highest principle. And therefore Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam saranam braja. That in certain situations you have to even give up your dharma, your sense of righteousness, if it's in pursuance of something higher. So yes, there are situations also in which a devotee may give up truthfulness, but they give up truthfulness on the order of the absolute truth. And therefore, on the order of the absolute truth, if one gives up truthfulness, then it's not considered a violation. So that's one aspect. And then the other aspect is, Prabhupada says, yes, sometimes in ordinary dealings it's understood that one may say certain things, you know, for you I'm making no profit. Prabhupada says everyone knows it's a lie. If you're not making any profit, why are you selling it? There's no need to sell it. So Prabhupada just understands that in social intercourse, in order for things to just go on, sometimes there are, but they are not threats to the fabric of society. So that may happen also. Okay.
Hare Krishna. So Maharaj, you talked about taking God out of the equation, and to some degree, sometimes we can also take God out of the equation when we're preaching. You know, we have preaching, and then we want to take Krishna out of the equation. And we've seen that, and obviously I think there's a scale of, you know, how much you take God out of the equation, how much bridge preaching you're doing, or to what extent. So how can you, you know, it's about truthfulness and, you know, sharing it as it is, I guess. Or so where do you draw the line, or where do you feel like, are we kind of becoming in a way where we're also taking God out of the equation, we're taking Krishna out of the equation? Can we fall into that trap?
Yeah. We're going to transcribe your lectures and see how many times you say Krishna. If it's not enough. There's a difference between taking God out of the equation and progressively introducing people to God. There's a difference between a preacher who's trying to hide Krishna and a preacher who's trying to prepare people so that they can accept Krishna in the most natural way. And there's a fine line. Even Krishna at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, he doesn't put himself into the equation immediately. He first says, Arjun, let's talk about you. Me will come to later. But let's first talk about you. You're a soul. You're indestructible. You can't be burned by fire, wind. You can't be withered by the wind. So it was all about the soul. And then later on, Krishna comes in. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavam, Purusham, Shashvatam Divyam, Adidevam, Ajam Vibhum. He all comes in. But it's not the first thing he says to Arjun. So even we could say, in one sense, even Krishna is a bridge preacher. Because Krishna doesn't also. First we have to. Preaching means if you want to take someone somewhere, first you have to meet them where they are. But the whole point is that we should know where we're trying to get people. And we should have a map. And we should know at what point. So I think if a preacher has an idea of when and how they're going to expertly introduce Krishna into the equation, then we can't be said to be taking God out of the equation. We're just preparing people to accept Krishna at the appropriate time. So yeah, we have to bring people. Even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he used to have a magazine. And it's interesting, on the front and the back of the magazine, it was just basically Monday news stories. And so people would pick up this magazine thinking, well, yeah, it's like the news of the world, you know. And then they would open it, and then inside would be like the real thing. So yeah, we may employ things like this. But then one final thing I'll say on this is that I think most preachers, they want to introduce people to Krishna, but they don't know how to present Krishna. They don't know how to explain it in terms that people can accept. And therefore I think that is one art that everyone has to learn, how to introduce people to Krishna in an expert way that relates to them. That once I was with a devotee in Liverpool and we were distributing books. I was distributing Krishna books. So we stopped one guy, so the devotee was pitching it, you know, this like spiritual Lord of the Rings. Da, da, da. So the guy was like sold. He was like, yeah. So the devotee was, yeah, take it. He goes, no, I won't take it. He said, but you're into this kind of stuff. He goes, yeah, but your God is blue, and I'm a Liverpool fan. if you're a Liverpool fan, then blue is like you're allergic. That means Everton, like you're allergic to blue. So he was like, no, this is against my principles. It's blue. So the devotee, you know what he did? He goes, no. He goes, just wait 1 second. And then he opened the book, and then he went to the Dasa Avatar picture, and he showed him a picture of Varahadev, and he goes, this same blue god comes in a reddish form. And when he comes in a reddish form, he plays football with the universe. It was like, whoa. A god that's red, that plays football with the universe. It's like, all right, sign me up. Sounds like my kind of god. I was like, wow, that was pretty good, you know. So we have to find the ways and the means to reach people, to connect with people. Like George Harrison says, everyone is looking for Krishna. Some know it, some don't. So how are we going to be able to introduce people to Krishna, his beauty? It's what everyone's looking for, but we just have to know how to reach people's minds. So yeah, some thoughts. Okay, shall we end here? I think, yes, we'll end here. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.